The Glock is 550 to 600. These are from 300 to
From custom paint jobs to bouncing hydraulics, each one of these lowriders tells its own story.
Man, a lot goes into lowrider. A lowrider is an extension of the person. You know, most of these cars are dedicated to somebody, you know, from their family, from their past.
Well, hello, friend. Bet you miss San Antonio's weather.
Colorado and Coach Prime turning over his roster. What did G.J. Kinney do?
Yeah.
Turned over.
What?
Like, she is. I think everything. Being a been a good change. Check, check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check, mic check.
Okay. Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Check 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 1 2 3.
Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Live from KSAT 12, the Nightbeat starts right now.
Thanks for staying up with us. First up, after weeks of worrying, a government shutdown averted, at least until mid-November. The House and Senate passed a compromised funding measure with bipartisan support, a deal that will keep the government funded for at least another 45 days.
Yeah, but getting this done before the midnight deadline came down to the wires. ABC's M. Wynn takes us into this whirlwind day in Washington.
With just hours to go, the House passing a bipartisan stopgap spending bill to avert a government shutdown.
The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The deal, including $16 billion in disaster relief requested by the White House, but no new aid for Ukraine. Speaker Kevin McCarthy putting his House leadership on the line, announcing the proposal following weeks of infighting within his own party.
If you have members in your conference that won't let you vote for appropriation bills, doesn't want an omnibus, and won't vote for a stopgap measure, I don't want to be a part of that team. I want to be a part of a conservative group that wants to get things done.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries criticizing what he calls the extreme Republicans.
The American people have won. The extreme MAGA Republicans have lost. It was a victory for the American people and a complete and total surrender by right-wing extremists who throughout the year have tried to hijack the Congress.
After the overwhelmingly bipartisan vote in the House, the bill was then sent to the Senate, where some expressed concern over the lack of funding for Ukraine.
We will not stop fighting for more economic and security assistance for Ukraine. Majorities in both parties support Ukraine aid, and doing more is vital for America's security and for democracy around the world.
But the Senate eventually voting to pass the legislation ahead of the midnight deadline, keeping the government open.
The alternative to our action today, an entirely avoidable government shutdown.
The final stop, President Biden's desk for his signature, keeping the government funded for another 45 days. M. Wynn, ABC News, Washington.
Back here at home, let's go outside with live cam. Pretty quiet right now here in San Antonio. Temperatures falling right now in the low 80s here in the Alamo City. It wasn't for everybody today, but we did manage to find a few showers and stray thunderstorms out there on Authority radar, especially south of San Antonio, but closer to the 6 p.m. hour earlier this evening, we did have an isolated downpour out there on the west side. You can see now that we have lost the daytime heat, whatever was left out there has fizzled out. The remaining green is just some radar noise. We are not finished with the isolated rain chances, though. Another 20 to 30% as we head into your Sunday. It is going to be hotter than average. Pretty much everybody seeing that heat with daytime highs in the low 90s for us here in town. That's going to continue into Monday and Tuesday, but we do have some changes, welcome changes that work in Wednesday night and into Thursday morning of next week as we see the first cool front of the season push through south central Texas. That brings with it better rain chances as well as some cooler temperatures. We will detail all of those changes coming up in just a few.
September is Suicide Prevention Month. As the month comes to a close, suicide prevention advocates across San Antonio are trying to talk about mental health, specifically for veterans and racial minorities.
The Night Team's Avery Everett shows us how you can start these conversations in your own home.
We can only break stigma and bring in awareness as much as we can keep talking.
Larissa Martinez looks back on her life in lessons.
I was just noticing that there was still a lot of gaps with mental health.
There's one message she wants San Antonio to learn.
There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially in minority communities.
New data released just this year from the CDC show that people of color have increased suicide rates between the year of 2018 and 2021. Nonprofits across San Antonio are trying to change this statistic this month, September, or Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
So it's so important to not only just spread awareness, but to know the resources that are out there.
So what are some of those resources? Greg Watson says as a suicide prevention trainer, his job is to help people find them.
It's a matter of taking advantage of being 2023.
Training courses, counseling sessions, and even the 988 hotline are among those resources. Watson says it's all about finding what works for you.
There are so many different demographics that have their own struggles and have their own needs. And there are so many organizations rising up to meet those needs.
In 2023, Martinez says she's proud of the progress made in suicide prevention efforts.
I think that we've come a long way now to this day and age.
But she says even as this month ends, there's more work to be done.
Just because September ends soon, both those groups I spoke with say this conversation is far from over. To see those resources, you can head on over to KSAT.com. Avery Everett, KSAT 12 News.
And faith leaders also gathered today to learn how to see the signs of suicide and depression in their own congregations.
Yeah, the National Alliance on Mental Illness held the first mental health and wellness fair over in District 2. Religious leaders in attendance stressed suicide is no longer a taboo topic in a place of worship. NAMI brought mental health experts to teach pastors and congregants how to navigate difficult conversations surrounding suicide. One survivor shared his experience, and this is the advice he has for anyone with a loved one struggling with suicidal thoughts.
Just let them know that you're not alone, that I'm always going to be here for you, that I'm here for you. I'm a call away, a text away, and that I'm going to be here to support you, and that if you need anything, I'm going to be here for you, no matter what.
NAMI leads a monthly class at several churches called Bridges to Care. The class teaches teenagers how to set boundaries, raise self-awareness, and tells them what healthy relationships look like. Well, today, Texas honors the memory of a U.S. Army specialist who was sexually harassed and killed. September 30th would have been Vanessa Guillen's 23rd birthday. The people of Helotes came together this morning to honor her life and memory. Vanessa was a U.S. Army soldier stationed at Fort Cavazos, where she was sexually harassed and killed by a fellow soldier back in April 2020. Now, earlier this year, Texas lawmakers voted to officially make September 30th Vanessa Guillen Day as a way to raise awareness about military sexual assault.
Other stories we've been following today. San Antonio police searching for the driver of a car they say crashed and left their passenger behind. It happened just before midnight in the 6200 block of Gibbs Sprawl Road. Investigators say the car did not stop at a stop sign. Instead, ran into a concrete wall, sending the car airborne into some nearby train tracks. Police say that driver left the scene and left their 39-year-old passenger behind. The victim taken to the hospital in unknown condition, and when the driver is found, we're told they'll be charged with failure to stop and render aid.
A man was shot while sitting at a bus stop, and police are trying to figure out who pulled the trigger. It happened just before 2 this morning on the 2300 block of Austin Highway. Police say that 23-year-old man was sitting at a bus stop in front of an apartment, and that's when a vehicle drove by and someone in the car shot him in his leg. He ran home where he called police, and then he was taken to the hospital. Police have yet to release the car or suspect details.
All right, San Antonio police and Crime Stoppers need your help tonight finding a man they say carjacked a woman at gunpoint earlier this week. Take a good look at your screen. SAPD says it happened just before 10 Thursday night on Huebner Road near Research Drive. The 21-year-old woman told police she was inside her car when the suspect came up to the car and demanded that she get out. The suspect drove away in the car. If you know anything about this incident, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. That number there on your screen, 210-224-7867. You could be paid up to $5,000 for information leading to an arrest.
Well, after years of planning and waiting, San Antonio's Civic Park is now open to the public.
And along with this weekend's Jazz Festival, the city celebrated the park's grand opening with a ribbon cutting ceremony today. At almost 7 acres, it actually opened yesterday with the 40th annual Jazz Alive Festival, but today our Mayor Ron Nirenberg and other city officials fully celebrated its opening. The park has more than 130 native trees from the area and sustainable water features to help with the environment. And this is just phase 1 of the plan. Phase 2 for the park set to open later next year.
Whether you've been here before or not, I'd like you to enjoy the park. This is literally your investment. This park is open every day, and there are many, many offerings.
The expansion to Hemisphere has been in development since 1968 following the World's Fair. Still to come on the Nightbeat, a major turnaround for a barbacoa restaurant. It went from failing an inspection to almost acing the follow-up. I'll take you behind their kitchen door. And Art on Wheels. We go to the San Antonio airport to learn more about the history and culture of lowriders.
And taking a look at the community through the eyes of an artist will show you what's being done to showcase the beauty of the city's west side.
Throughout history, people have celebrated their culture through art. A group of San Antonio artists wanted to share their pride for the West Side through ceramics.
And as part of Hispanic Heritage Month, the night team's Camelia Juarez shows us the beautiful sights of the West Side.
Royal blue and white, the zip code 78207, birds singing.
Some of the stories are traditional. For instance, if they have the parties, like Silda Tamaladas and things like that.
Ana Uviedo is looking at the latest art exhibit called Árboles de la Vida de la West Side at the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center.
So the traditional Tree of Life would have a married couple and the future children and the grandparents, and this is a takeoff on that. So this is telling the stories of the West Side.
Uviedo is one of the West Side artists. This year, she built a tree with hens and roosters.
There's a lot of chickens in the West Side. The way you drive around, I still like to gather them, and I used to like to feed them. And the way my mom fed them, that's the way we used to do.
Another one of her trees celebrates the shotgun-style houses, a kind of home found in the West Side neighborhoods.
They're just so tiny, but I think they're just real cute. We drove around looking at some. There's still a few in San Antonio. You go up Guadalupe Street and El Paso, close to Zarzamora.
Besides each of the ceramic trees is a handwritten letter from the artist explaining their connection to the West Side.
There's nothing written about the West Side if you look for it.
Graciela Sanchez with the Esperanza Center hopes more people will come and see the West Side through the eyes of the artists who live here.
All we hear is negative stuff about being Mexican, being from the West Side, and it's growing. It's not getting better. So this kind of gives you a more complete and complex look at the West Side.
All of the trees are for sale, proceeds going to Mujeres de Artes, and the exhibit will be open to the public through November 11th. Camelia Juarez, KSAT 12 News.
More than 250 beach volleyball players brought their best stuff to a tournament today in an effort to remember and honor a man and a woman that are no longer with us. Matt and Sunday Rowan tragically died in a hot air balloon accident in Lockhart back in 2016. Now, hundreds come together every year to play in a volleyball tournament to honor the San Antonio couple. It was Matt's favorite sport, and while fundraising is a big part of the event, people say their main goal is to just come out and play and remember their friend.
Fundraising is an amazing part of it, but it's a big part of the community. Matt was integral to San Antonio volleyball, and so it's to come out and play in his name and in his honor.